Hello, everybody. Welcome back to How Come. Today, I am in LA and I am talking to comedian, actor, writer, and producer Bill Dawes. You guys may have seen him in Kevin Can Wait, Elementary, Law & Order SVU, the other two, Mo, and he plays Blonde Guy on one of my favorite episodes of Sex and the City, which we'll talk about. We are discussing today how Bill went from being really bad at sex to learning how to be better at sex. It's a story of hope. Trigger warning, though, at the end of this episode, there is a lot of talk about assault. But for the most part, it's a pretty fun episode. And, we talk about White Lotus. But if you haven't watched White Lotus already, how have you avoided spoilers up until this point? I don't know. Okay, enjoy.
How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
Welcome, Bill.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. You guys, we are coming to you from Bill's backyard in LA. So if you hear any sirens or teen gangs getting arrested. I literally saw a teen gang get arrested last night and I was so upset. I don't know. It wasn't too far from WeHo. We went to my friend's house to make pizzas and it was these 14-year-olds up against a wall with handcuffs.
Oh, wow.
I was so upset.
Yeah.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm good.
You ready to do this?
You know, it's so funny because I wanted to do this podcast for a while.
A long time.
Just because for so much of my life, I was so interested in in sexology, and I really wanted to be a sex therapist for a while.
What got you interested in it?
You know, it's so funny because I figured you might ask that, and I was thinking about it, and I think this is what happened. My freshman year in college, and I had already had sex, not to brag.
Whoa!
But and I have sex till my senior year in high school.
Okay. And where are you from originally?
Virginia.
Was that late in life for?
In terms of people I went to school with?
Yeah.
It was definitely later.
Okay.
Kids in elementary school were having sex when I grew up, yeah.
All right.
And I heard about, I didn't even know what sex was. I was like, what? Anyway, I think it was the end of my freshman year in college. I had sexual intercourse with this girl. And I was in, also this is the 90s, right? So when you had sex in the 90s, there was almost this contract that you were going to keep doing it because AIDS was everywhere. People slept around, don't get me wrong. But I feel it was a little bit contained because of the fear of AIDS, which is very real in the 90s, even for straight people, even though looking back, in retrospect, probably a little bit overreaction. But
no, there was a girl who grew up on Park Avenue in New York.
Really?
Straight girl.
No drugs?
Died from AIDS, no drugs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just from straight up sex.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up butt sex. Got it. So I think that I had sex with this girl and I didn't know much about it, about sex. I just knew that I could do it. And I thought that you did a position or two and you lasted more than 5 minutes, you were killing it. So,
pretty much.
So we had sex and then I figured, okay, we'd hook up again because that's just what happens in the 90s in college. And she was like, well, she said something along the lines yeah, well, I would do it again if you were any good in bed.
Oh, and you were like, no, but this is the 90s. I don't have to be good at bed.
That phrase was something that it's not like I never considered it before, but it just struck me as so weird because I didn't know really what she meant by that, right?
Did you ask her?
No, I was too busy picking my stomach off the floor. I was so fucking, it's the worst thing you can hear. You're terrible in bed.
There are so many insults that I still think about. I'm like, what I should have said. There was this kid who, our senior year in high school, said to me, you used to be so much hotter in 8th grade.
Oh my God.
Now, I could have said a number of things. I could have said, you're a pedophile.
Of course.
But my sister, when I went home, she said, you should have said, people change. Why don't you?
Ooh,
and
nice.
I still think about it.
Damn, I've almost said that.
Yeah.
I mean, because, what could I have said?
But your stomach drops.
Only you were good in bed. You're
like,
yes, I am.
You're like, please explain what you mean by that.
But for some reason, it just really, it's almost like the first time you hear someone shitting on your comedy. When you're a comic and someone you overhear it. I don't know if you've ever heard people talking about your comedy ever. I have a couple times, and it's
One time.
brutal. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things that on one conscious level, you're like, whatever, it's just this girl I barely know. We had sex one time. We were drunk. I don't
Mm-hmm.
On another level, in some weird, deep way, it just intrinsically embeds itself in the back of your fucking brain. You're going, am I just objectively bad in bed? Is there
Yeah.
something that I'm doing? Because I didn't know what or if I was doing anything wrong.
Yeah, and is there an objective bad in bed?
Yes, yes. And of course, I think I have an answer to that now.
Yes.
So that kind of
And you
set me
were.
on a well, this, okay, well, I can address that right now. So I've thought about that too, because I think what makes people good in bed is basically just an ability to be versatile and to listen.
Totally.
Because as many women as I've been with, which is more than I care to admit, it's amazing how complicated women's sexuality is.
Mm-hmm.
It's all over the map. I mean, there are women that look like the sweetest, most demure kindergarten special ed teachers who just want to be literally like pounded
Yeah.
anally for an hour straight.
Yeah.
And then there are women who are tatted up and ink, nose ring, and they just want to make sweet love
They
and
want
have
intimacy.
eye contact. You know?
Yeah.
And there's some women who, I mean, as you know, there's some women who it's incredibly difficult to come during sex.
Mm-hmm.
Some women who don't come during sex. I'd say there's, I don't know how many, but I hear stories. I mean, so there's something very fascinating about the fact that women can come 0 times or infinity times.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the range, 0 or infinity. And the only way that we know is what she tells you. But you can't really tell as a guy. I mean, you can and you
I've
can't.
heard people say they can tell.
I mean, you can tell by contractions and you can tell by
Contractions,
someone
yeah.
saying, I'm coming. But sometimes, I think most men can relate to the fact that sometimes you're with a woman and you actually think they've come because they've made the prerequisite noises and you felt enough contraction that you're like, and they were wet enough, you're like, oh, I just made her come. And meanwhile,
Yeah.
they're like, well, next time, maybe you can make me come.
Yeah, because like everyone's contractions and noises and wetness level are different.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like when you were saying you have to be like versatile and communicate. Like I was like, it's like being in like a jam band.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to like go with the
You have to
flow.
you have to be able to riff.
Yeah.
So it's a combination. It's, when the Dalai Lama came to New York, a think tank was created to ask him the most pressing question you could ask the Dalai Lama. It was basically like, how do you reconcile American just do it, manifest destiny with Buddhist go with the flow? Mm-hmm. And his answer was like, it depends on the situation, which is very anticlimactic. But that's really it. It's like you have to have drive because your testosterone you have to have a drive. You have to have a desire and a want, or the woman isn't really going to probably be that into it. But you also have to be able to want as much as you want, and then also be like, okay, if this is what you want, I'll do this.
Are you into Buddhism?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I'm somewhere in there.
Okay.
Somewhere in the Buddhist realm.
Did you watch White Lotus this season?
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did.
So it appealed to you?
Yeah.
Does Buddhism say anything about sex practices?
The morality of sex.
Uh-huh.
Because my introduction to Buddhism was really sort of indirect through Kundalini yoga, because I became a Kundalini yoga first an acolyte.
Will you explain what that is for people?
So Kundalini yoga. So the Kundalini energy is energy that's basically trapped in your first and second chakra, which is your
Your groin.
sexual nervous system and your inner thigh, and then your groin, up to your belly button. And that energy is considered an infinite, unlimited source of power, right? And in Western culture, it's locked. Most people have it locked in a lot of ways. Either they're not flexible, or they suppress it, or they hold it, or they're too profligate with it. So it's just a big mess. And so the idea is you want to like figure out how to, and a lot of it has to do with very technical stuff. The good thing about Kundalini is it's spiritual, but it's mostly about just do this. Just do this. And a lot of it is Kegling. I mean, for men too. I mean, we spend a lot of time just Kegling. The Mulla bun lock. You just Kegel, 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 Kegel. And you're doing that like throughout the practice. And that becomes, for me, that became a very, intrinsic part of how I thought about sex. It's like, because sex is about, you have this instrument, and if you can control your instrument as much as you humanly possibly can control it, and we can do that mostly with Kegling, then all the other weird, complicated, emotional and physical stuff around sex, you could navigate that easier because your penis will be like trained, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So how long after the you're bad at sex conversation did you get into, like, was that a cause and effect thing?
No, I think the first thing I started reading books when I was in college. Little cut to Ronky montage of me learning how to have good sex, and then they would have guest lecturers. And by the way, this is Princeton, right? So it's a bunch of like hoity-toity, like, and I was the opposite of hoity-toity. I was
humble
basically
brag. Yeah.
No, but I did not fit in at all.
Yeah.
You know, and this guy came and gave a lecture. It was a seminar how to teach men how to have good sex, and literally there was like you couldn't get in the room. It was like 500 people packed in because all these kids were like, "What the fuck? How do we?" And the only takeaway I got from that was his sort of life hack for sex was kundalini, right?
Yeah.
He was like, that is the entry point for all sex.
Yeah.
If you master kundalini, if you know how to eat a pussy, then, and he would literally say, he goes, if you can eat pussy, he goes, I have women lined up around the block for me to eat their pussy. This is like a college, they
That's
paid him
insane.
probably $20,000 to come and talk to his kids.
Yeah.
I have women lying around the block.
Like
'Cause I
you
know
can
how to eat
teach
pussy.
people
You're like,
without
really?
talking about yourself.
Yeah, he talked about it in such a way of like, that's the goal.
Yeah.
To have women lined up around the block. As opposed to
Got
like
binders full of women.
and he gave us an exercise to do. And I think they passed these M&Ms around. And the idea was you take this M&M. I've never thought about this until now, by the way. I just
Amazing.
remember it. And you split it in half. And you put it between your teeth, your and other teeth, so there's a space with the M&M shell. And you lick out the chocolate without cracking the shell, right? So that was just kind of like Karate Kid, you know, Mr. Miyagi training for how to eat a vagina. And it was basically like that's how gentle you have to be with the clit, you know. And of course, in college, I mean, I know there's a big joke about finding the clit, but in college, I think we were clueless about that shit, completely clueless. But yeah, that was kind of my first class in that. And then things picked up for me in that department because in the beginning I wasn't getting laid at all. And then I just kind of, I just started listening to a lot of women talk about sex, and it was always like blowing my mind, the things I would hear. And that continued through grad school. And then when I was in grad school, I became a kundalini yoga instructor.
Okay, wait. Before we get into this,
Yeah.
can we go back to the girl who said you were bad in bed? Did you go down on her
Oh, I don't think I did. And if I did, know, if I did, I probably went down on her.
for like
I
3
mean,
seconds?
I wish, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wish I could because I think that when I was coming up in the game, as it were, I think that I thought, well, you go down on a woman to get them wet to have sex with them.
100%. I think I used to even think of that the same thing about like fingering. I was like, they only do it to like go up and like get fluids down. And it's like, no, it's actually
Like a
supposed
pap
to be
smear,
like
yeah.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
believe? Okay, so then, who told you about that, or you were just doing research into Kundalini?
I think I was doing a summer theater program, and there was a yoga teacher who I had a crush on, and she got me into. She was a Jiva Mukti instructor, and I did Jiva Mukti, and I felt like I needed to do yoga. It spoke to me in this weird way, but I didn't. So I kind of did the. It's like when you find anything, like your comedy club or your jiu-jitsu place, it's like you kind of go around. And Kundalini, to me, was the thing that resonated the most, just because I didn't have to sit there and listen to some friggin', ex-ballet dancer go, everyone just remember your soul is there for the purpose. I was like, shut up. I don't need to be lectured to. Just show me what to do. I don't want to sit there while you talk for 15 minutes. And Kundalini was like, sit down, breath of fire, Kegel, do this. And at the end of class, if you've never done Kundalini, I don't know, have you ever done it before?
I don't think so.
Particularly when you start
think
doing
I would
it.
know.
And at the time, I hadn't really done a lot of breath work yet.
Yeah.
It really, really fucks with you. I mean, it was, when it first came to America, it was banned because it was considered too dangerous.
I will say I've done breath work in like stuff relating to this podcast, like assignments that I had to do for this, and I would get like super lightheaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can say all sorts of fancy words for what you're doing, breath of fire, lines of breath, but you're making yourself hyperventilate.
Yeah.
You oxygenate your blood a little bit too much, so you have this feeling. But you could, if you do it responsibly, you do it well, it can really create this this crazy feeling of energy in your body that you would never have otherwise. No other yoga can provide it for you.
By the way, guys, this has nothing to do with Buddhism. I just want you to know that we know. That we know. Piper, no.
Did you love White Lotus, by the way?
I did. wasn't it an orgasm that season? It was such a slow
slow
build.
at the beginning, yeah.
And then the end was like,
Yeah.
what is
100%,
happening?
100%.
It's worth it.
Yeah, I remember the first 2 episodes. I was like, really? Is anything happening here?
Yeah.
It was so boring. But yeah, it was great. I love the fact that Mike White was interviewed about why Thailand, and I thought it was really interesting because Thailand is such a weird sort of amalgam of a highly spiritual place with a highly carnal place.
Yeah.
So it's like people are either behaving like animals, they're fighting, they're fucking, they're drugs, or they're trying to find a way to completely remove themselves from the material world.
Yeah.
And so they kind of go back, and that was his sort of interest in making it in Thailand, which I thought was fascinating. Yeah.
Sam Rockwell's character, like in a nutshell.
Oh my God, that monologue is
Back
insane.
and forth
So
and
good.
Back and forth. No, but like literally, he's like doing coke with all these
Yes,
women,
and
and
it
the
ends
next
with
day
him-
he's praying.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, okay, that'll last for a couple of weeks
Yeah.
until he breaks down again.
Whatever works for him.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the finale, this is a spoiler, you guys. Sorry if you haven't watched it. Finding out that Greg really was a cuck.
Oh yeah.
Like, I thought that was going to be some
she
storyline
yes.
to like get him like killed or like get money out of
100%.
him and extort him or whatever. And it went like that wink. Everybody was watching with. We were like, oh, nice.
And also the fact that Scott Glenn, I think that's the actor, right? The old
John
guy
Grise? Oh, the old. Yeah, the dad.
was the dad.
I
of
mean,
Walter.
I've known that all along because I'm on
you-
Reddit threads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, back to Kundalini.
So, and obviously Kundalini is the basis for all Tantra. And so then I started doing a lot of Tantric workshops. And there's red and white and black Tantric. And I was doing white. So red Tantric is like sexual. Tantra just means two. It just means paired. And so white Tantric yoga is just paired yoga, right?
Okay.
And
That's cool.
The events, the classes, whatever you call them, they would be 8 to 10 hours long. And you'd have a partner. And I would usually go with, if I was dating someone, sometimes a friend or sometimes a stranger. And you sit across them and you do shit that you can't believe. You do a meditation with a movement for an hour straight or 62 minutes that you were like, are you kidding me? Like you flapping your arms up and down while you do a mantra for 62 minutes while you stare in someone's eyes. I'm like, I'm not. And then you find yourself doing it. And then the instructors come and they like touch your back, and it's supposed to be this weird collective energy called a Z energy that you can only feel in the magic of the space. And it's kind of bullshit, but also kind of true.
I love when an instructor touches your back. I don't know what. Like, there's something about them, like, adjusting you and in class that I'm like, you care about me?
And by the way, speaking of that, so I became a Kundalini instructor, and then I just started teaching. I was teaching at Crunch in different places, and I would kind of mix
There's
my
Kundalini at Crunch?
Well, I would mix it with like a vinyasa, because everyone just, when I started in like, I guess 99, everyone, like Kundalini was kind of cool and hot.
Okay.
But then vinyasa and flow yoga became everything.
Yeah.
So I was teaching this kind of weird hybrid Kundalini at Crunch, and then people were like, where's my sun salutations?
Literally.
Where's my moon salutation? So I wasn't like deep in the yoga world. I was kind of in it, but not really in it. The same way I feel about the comedy world. Enough in it that I was really disgusted by what I saw from the male teachers. Because every male teacher, almost to a person,
touching too many backs?
first of all, you'd see this guy who was like 240 pounds, 5'8", and he was trying to do downward dog, and clearly like the worst, posture ever. Like, he's sweating. And then the instructor would come along to the ex ballerina who had perfect form and just grab her waist from behind and pull her up and like, it's kind of like a hacky thing to say, but it's true. I saw it way too much. I'm like, why don't you do with this? This is his first class. Why don't you pay attention to him, you fucking asshole?
Yeah.
And then you'd hear all these stories about how they would, sleep with their students, and it was going all around, and Jivamukti and all these different places. And it just got me. And I would go to like weekend ashrams and retreats, and these guys with the man buns and ponytails would like hit on my girlfriend in front of me in this like bullshit spiritual way. You're like, ugh. Because there's a part of me that's just like southern white trash. It's like, I'll fucking punch you in the face, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
So I got really disillusioned by the kind of pseudo, there is no truth, there's only a great cloud, and we throw our spears at it, and maybe we hit the truth, and so everything is kind of vague, and because everything's vague and loose, it means that you can fuck without any moral, quandaries. But there's also zero sum, and there's also like, this is right and wrong. Don't do this or do this. And I feel like from my experience of yoga, everything was sort of, ironically, there was no more real morality attached to anything other than stick up for the underdog and don't hurt people and don't let negative energy come around. But the truth is, you need a negative energy, because negative energy teaches you what positive energy is. You can't just, all these yoga teachers or people who are heavily in yoga are like, what about this? They're like, I can't deal with any negative, only positive energy. I'm like, no, we actually have a problem we have to address, you dummy.
Wait, was that here?
Oh, it was New York. It was here. It was everywhere.
Okay,
just the whole yoga community in general, writ large. I just felt it was a lot of people avoiding trauma,
actual emotions,
or thinking that they were truly better human beings than like the great mass of humanity because of their practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I got really disillusioned, and from that I went into jiu-jitsu, which is very much a zero-sum game. You either tap or snap, tap
Pin
or
the
pass
guy.
out. Yeah, well, you have to submit them, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is like you're submitted, so you've lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start over again,
Mm-hmm.
and then you lose again. So you're constantly being humbled. And I felt that when I was a yoga instructor, and this goes back into the sexual stuff, and I was doing a lot of tantric, and I had a lot of control. I found myself being such an arrogant motherfucker, like so sexually arrogant, just like I can fuck like Sting. I can go so long, and it made me somehow superior to people, and it just.
Were you getting good feedback in that time though? Or were you just feeling
good sexual feedback?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the first time you made a woman come?
Oh my God, that's a really good question. I mean, I think my high school girlfriend, I think she was pretty sexual, so I think she came.
Okay.
But if I look back, if I could roll the tape back, I'd probably be like, ugh, what the fuck was I doing?
Yeah, or it was just like really easy for her.
It was just really, it was easy for her, and
you could have been a pillow.
Yeah, exactly. But the first time I started getting feedback about me in bed, it was probably around the time in grad school, once I started doing yoga and getting more control. Mm-hmm. And then I had a girl, I don't know why this is a thing that most men don't know, but it's really easy. I don't know if it's easy, but it's really easy to learn how to control your orgasm. So I think that as a man, you should be able to orgasm literally like to the second you want to orgasm, almost. You know? Because there are women who want to go for 5 minutes, or women who want to go 10 minutes, or women who need like half hour plus.
Yeah.
They need a lot of time.
Yeah.
And you should be able to adjust accordingly. So I can be with a woman and come in 5 minutes. I can come with a woman and come in 55 minutes. It doesn't matter, depending on what they want.
Okay. It's interesting because Ben and I had a conversation recently. We were going on this podcast where the point is to make a pair of people fight, whether they're a couple or like a group of friends or whatever.
Do they know that that's the point of the podcast, that people were fighting?
Yeah, we knew.
Oh, we knew.
We were the ones that were going to go in to fight. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we were like preparing, and I trying to see if like they couldn't make us fight. I basically was like, let's bring up all the stuff. Yeah. Like, who's better with money, who's funnier, whose family sucks more. And we're like walking around the reservoir in the city, coming up with these prompts. And he goes, who goes down on the other person more? And I was like, well, you now. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, me now. And I was like, yeah, and I used to. But like now we know that like I need more time than you.
Yeah.
And like if I blow you, you're likely to just finish in my mouth, and then there's no like there's not a ton of thrusting going on. And he was like, oh, so you're just thinking about you. And I was like, yes, of course.
And that's another thing I tell people all the time. Particularly women need to be really selfish during sex. I think the problem is that in our puritanical society with sex, I think that women have been taught too much to be like some sort of sexual doormat, or be the one to please the man and take care of the man. And so they've relegated their pleasure to fucking their alone time with daytime TV and a vibrator. And I think that they should be aggressive and assertive about what it is they want and what makes. And too many women, I know, are just, even when I ask them like point blank, what is you want? Like, do you like? I can't tell you how many women I've been with where I ask them if they want to bring their vibrator.
Yeah.
And they're like, no man has ever asked me that before. I'm like, well, I think, do you want to?
Welcome to Bill.
I would love it.
Yeah.
Bring your vibrator. Like, I'm not going to be like, that vibrator is doing stuff I can't do.
No, literally.
But the thing, I think that he had like kind of a realization too, like I'm happy to give a blowjob or whatever if I'm not thinking about myself
Sure.
following that. But like you were saying with like, if he can control it, sure, I'll go down. But then if you can keep it for 50 more minutes or whatever, like,
Yeah.
so maybe we need to invest in some classes.
Well, I think that, I mean, honestly, and I've talked to some.
But also he was totally fine with it when I explained it. He was like, oh no, that makes sense.
I don't think that men think about, in general, I don't think men really think about Kegling, you know, and I don't
Why
think
would they? It's a totally
You think of it as
female
a female,
associated
of course,
thing.
100%.
Yeah.
It's the exact same muscle that men have,
Yeah.
that women have. It's in the sphincter. So I feel like once you really like, and I'm talking about like, you know, different speeds you do it, different duration, like whole, like go, like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you could do.
Do you get
there's-
those videos across your TikTok ever?
No.
Oh
What are
my
those
God.
videos?
It'll be like a woman being like, hey, all right, we're going to get into your Kegels. Let's go. And hold, and hold, and hold. Now hold for 8 or whatever. And I'll always stop on them and do them. And then Ben goes, I'm doing it too. And I'm like,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. That is the best way, without a doubt, to control your orgasm.
Yeah. And then you get
100%.
tricked into working out
Yeah.
for like a minute.
And then, you know, then there's a point where I think this is also why I went into jujitsu. When I was doing the kundalini and the tantric and stuff, and I had a girlfriend, and it just became, and she was like a squirter. So everything in my life was just like,
Sex.
like if we had a night together where we didn't have sex, she'd be like, "Are you still attracted to me?" And I was like, ah, and she would squirt fucking a gallon, and so it was kind of like my whole brain was just
Yeah.
like, and it also made me feel arrogant, and it made me kind of unfaithful in a weird way. It kind of
Really?
yeah, because this is I think this is a big myth about men and sexuality too. Well, if I'm pleasing him, he won't cheat on me.
Right.
The truth is, the men I know that when you feel like, oh man, I've got this fucking superpower, why would I share it with just one person?
Oh my God. You're literally like the guy in Sex and the City who gets his circumcision. And then Charlotte's like all excited. She's waited for him for like 2 weeks. And then she's like, what are we doing on Saturday? He's like, Saturday? And she's like, aren't we going out? And he's like, I've got to share this penis with the world.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's a terrible thing.
No.
It's a bad thing.
No. And also to your point before, like people think if I have him sexually satisfied or satisfied in any other way, he's not going to stray. It has nothing to do with what you're doing.
100%.
If a person wants to cheat, that's on them.
Yeah,
Just
I
break
cheated
up
on
with
her
people.
when I was with her, and I think part of it was because we're having so much sex. So my testosterone was probably through the roof, and I just felt this. So if she wasn't around, I'm like, well, I got to fuck someone now. Like, she's gone. She's out of town for 2 weeks. Like, what am I going to do? And of course, you justified it in this weird bullshit yoga tantric. Well, I'm healing women with my, you
With
know,
my
you
dick.
really do these weird coping
Yeah.
runarounds in your brain in order to be like, it's a victimless crime, which is just, you know, horseshit. But
Totally.
that's where I was at the time.
Yeah.
And I think there was a moment where, and I was still like, I would go out and get drunk. I just started doing comedy. I'd go out and get drunk. I would like fuck people in the comedy club at the old Laugh Factory. And I had a girlfriend that I would come home to, and I would get drunk, smoke cigarettes. I would get in literal fist fights. And then at 9 in the morning, I was teaching yoga class. I was like, I'm so fucking complicated.
So funny.
I'm so diverse. I'm so
That's
interesting.
so
I
funny.
fight, but I do yoga.
Yeah.
And I thought there was some sort of weird, cool merit to that.
Yeah.
And then something happened in my life where I just went like, you know, one of those proverbial look in the mirror moments. So I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
You have zero fucking integrity. Who are you? Like, if you were looking outside at yourself right now,
You'd be like, that
You'd be
guy's
like,
a piece
"Ugh."
of shit.
I hate, he's a douche.
Yeah.
So, and then when I started, particularly when I started jujitsu, and jujitsu was really just taking all this massive ego I developed and just knocking me down and just like breaking fingers and chipping teeth and breaking toes and getting choked and conscious, and just kind of, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, this is what I need.
Mm-hmm. And being like, oh damn, other men know how to pin better than me.
Yeah, exactly.
Humbling.
I thought I was a man.
Yeah.
Because I could fuck.
Yeah.
No, a man is someone who can protect. That's what a man is. It's more important to protect than to fuck.
And remind me, protect from whom?
Huh? From other men.
From other men. Okay. Okay, wait. So I briefly brought up Sex in the City, and now I'm remembering that you are actually in one of my favorite episodes ever. Yeah. You guys go back, do a rewatch. It's fun. So I was making Ben, not making. I asked him, I was like, have you ever watched Sex in the City all the way through? He's like, no. So we finally did it this year. And we're watching that episode. It's the episode where Charlotte's mad at Samantha. She thinks she's too much of a slut. Samantha's mad at Charlotte. She thinks she's too much of a prude. Samantha makes this friend, I think her name is Carol Ann or something like that. And Carol Ann is a fucking whore in the best way. She's fun. And her and Samantha go out together and meet two guys. And then and you're one of the two guys. And she goes under the table and starts blowing one of the guys. And Samantha's like, oh my God, this is like too much of a slut. Like, I need to go back to my friend. So we're watching that episode. And Ben and I both point at the screen. We go, is that Bill Dawes?
When he was 50 pounds lighter.
When he was like a child. No, so you were like in your 20s, you must have been, right?
Yeah, I was in my 20s.
What was shooting that like? Because you're the friend next to the guy who gets the blow.
Well, I will say this. So I kept getting brought in for nice roles, like good roles. Let's be honest, gay roles. But I would get in for like,
nice.
and I never booked any.
Okay.
And then finally they just offered me this one. And I was like, it's fucking 3 lines. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And my friend said, if you turn it down, you'll never be on the show.
Mm-hmm. Also, they recast people all the time.
On Sex and the City?
Justin Theroux plays 2 different Carrie's boyfriends. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's so
That's
weird.
wild. They just left him.
And also, I forget this guy's name. He's the head of publishing in Younger. He plays my David, who is like one of the bubbies at synagogue, sets her son up with Charlotte.
Yeah.
And then in Just Like That, they bring him back as some guy that Carrie dates.
And just like that, they did. Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah.
But the actual shooting of the thing.
So Kim Cattrall was on set.
Right.
I think Kim Cattrall had just put out a book about like how to have good sex with her and her husband.
Now
ex-husband, yeah. You know, we're there for several hours and she's next to me and I literally hit on her.
Oh, God.
I know, so pathetic. I was in the middle of my kundalini arrogance.
Yeah.
And I was, hey, maybe I can like show you. I don't know what I said. I would cringe if I heard what I said.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that bad, but it was. But she literally turned and looked at me and just laughed in my face. Which, touche. She should have. She should have. She literally laughed in my face. I was like, all right, this is a good wake up call to where I stand. But it was right after her book came out, and I was like, what if I could fuck Kim Cattrall? It's so stupid.
Obviously she's on set, so she's not gonna like be fully talking about sex or whatever.
No.
But it's really interesting. I've met her before and I was young. I was like 15 or something like that. And it was in like a situation, I think it was someone's birthday party or whatever. So like she wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And we were talking for a bit and I was so excited because I was like in like the fucking enthralled by Sex and the City. Samantha's always been my favorite character. I think she's just like, well, Miranda too. But I think Samantha's like really fucking funny.
Yeah.
And so sexually open and whatever. And I'm talking to Kim and she's lovely, but she's not Samantha. You know, like she's quiet. She's really sweet. She's very reserved. And I was like, oh man, acting is acting.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. 100%.
And like she's still very sexual. She wrote all those books about orgasms and all that stuff. But like, she's not like, oh, honey.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
With that voice, she does. Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, I hit on her. She said no and laughed in my face. Yeah, so I'm glad I did it because every once in a while I still get a check for 25 cents from Sex and the City.
So
this
fun.
is 20 years later or whatever it is. And I'm glad I did it because it's definitely one of those, when you start off comedy, you know, remember there was a time when you would get booked based on credits? As opposed to now, which is based on like your Instagram
Social
engagement.
Media, yeah.
But that credit, I'm telling you, that would get me booked in so many clubs for like a decade.
Totally. Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
They're like, what episode? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. It's 3 lines. But yeah, you check it out.
You're like, I'm
season
one
3.
of the boyfriends. For like
I'm probably the one person who had scenes with
60
Samantha that
seconds.
didn't get to fuck her in the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that other guy next to you.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I had asked you if you remember the first time you made a woman come. It wasn't, we don't truly remember, and that's okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when, sort of as a corollary answer, when I started becoming aware of
it, yeah.
aware of
Asking.
And how to do it and what it meant. Because I think there was so much when you start, particularly, men are left completely blind and not at sea when it comes to sex. We have no idea. The only thing that we have to teach us what sex. When I was growing up, it was, we didn't have the access to porn that men have now.
Yeah.
So it was a lot more imagination because it was magazines.
Mm-hmm. Which honestly, I think that's better than learning
for
from
sure.
porn.
One of my best friends is like my little brother. He's now 30, I don't know, 35 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
When I met him, he was like 18. He was a comic. And he was like, I was having sex with this girl. Anyway, so I pull out, to come on her face. And I was like, wait, what? He goes, I pull out, come on her face. I was like,
where'd you learn that?
did she tell
Ask
you to?
that?
Did
Yeah,
she-"
yeah, yeah.
He's like, no, that's just what you do. You pull out and you come. I go, what do you mean? I was so, and he explained to me, he came up watching internet porn.
Yeah.
And that is how you conclude sex with internet porn, is you come on the woman's face. That's just de rigueur. It's normal.
Yeah.
For me, I think I was like 32 the first time I did that. And I was like, this is so naughty. And I did it.
Yeah. No, it happened to a girl when I was in high school. And like, she was completely like taken aback and like she wasn't watching porn. She didn't like again, we didn't discuss this. This guy comes in her eye and then she was like really in pain. She told everybody in school the next day, and like none of the girls really understood. We were like, what's wrong with his penis that it's like shooting all over the place? Like we could not fathom, like there was no, oh, that was intentional.
Yeah.
It was like,
that's so
this
funny.
guy is like fucked up like physically.
Hey, I've never really gotten into the whole cum in the face thing.
I don't know.
It's
Some
not for me.
people like to try stuff. Some girls love having cum all over their face.
Did they?
Oh my God. Well, people love everything.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I would say that there's someone for
Yeah.
everyone, and there's someone who wants.
But the surprise aspect, people are usually like, what the fuck?
Yeah, there should be a little toxie before you
If
do
somebody pulled out and like went to come in my face, I would smack the dick.
that. Yeah, that's like spitting in someone's mouth. It's like that has to be agreed on
And some
beforehand.
people love it.
Some
But
people
I'm
love
like,
it.
keep it away from me.
I'll be honest. If I was a woman or a gay man, I'd probably be all into getting bukkakied. I think if I was a woman, I'd like to be bukkakied.
Is that coming in the face?
Yeah.
Okay.
By a bunch of dudes. I think I'd be the
I
worst.
never remember
slut as
what
a
it is
woman.
because it sounds like shit to me. I'm always like, you want to get shit on your face or something like that.
Well, because and this is also, with the squirting thing, it's like, I would go down on her in the morning, like 6 a.m. When it was completely, dehydrated, just straight urea in my face, and I was okay with it.
You loved it.
I never had a
Yeah.
problem with it. Now I'm looking back, I'm like, what happened in my childhood that I was okay with being peed on at 6 a.m?
Oh, people love, we just did a whole episode about piss kinks and stuff. But okay, so you and I spoke about this a while back, that you had been dating a woman who had a really tough time finishing,
Oh yeah,
right?
I can't imagine. No, yeah, I probably.
You're like, you tell me.
I'm trying to think
I don't know.
who it was at the time.
I feel like it was like a long-term relationship.
A long-term relationship with a woman who had a really
Maybe you were
hard
just
time.
trying to bid to get on the pod.
Yeah, it was just a bid.
Yeah.
Maybe at the time I was dating a woman who. What did I say about it? I've smoked so much weed.
That I know. I remember those days. Just that it was really tough for her, and that it was kind of like frustrating for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there's a certain amount of. I don't think that like, if you're trained in sex or whatever it is, I don't think you necessarily have the master key for every woman.
Yeah.
No matter how much I feel like I know what I'm doing, there's certain women I'm just not going to be their thing.
Yeah.
whether it's the size or shape of my dick or the way I want to do it or whatever it is I'm not going to be the guy that's going to make them.
Yeah.
They're really amazing, beautiful women who are with some guys who, for whatever reason, he can hit them the way that they want to be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I know for me, there was a lot of, my ego was really attached to the fact that I thought I could. I thought I had like the master key.
Yeah.
So, and I think
so
that
the
could create
frustration was more about that you couldn't
my
do
ego,
it.
100%
It
my
wasn't
ego.
like she's
Like-
not having a good time.
like when I can't come during sex. I'm like, give me a few weeks,
yeah,
darling.
yeah.
And you know, they start realizing, okay, you're making it about you, and that's not. So I think what I believe, and I think that what most women who have difficulty coming is they have to really explore themselves by themselves for a while to really understand all the mechanisms and things and
But
psychologically.
if you know
otherwise.
that, you should know that it's not your fault necessarily if
Yeah.
you're doing all the stuff.
I'll give you an example. Of something I mean. There's I've been with women before who have never come during sex, right?
Yeah.
And I ask them if they masturbate. Some of them don't. They don't masturbate, and that's the first thing. I'm like, well, you gotta fucking masturbate. That's number one. Men and women, you gotta fucking masturbate.
Yeah.
There should be no taboo or stigma around masturbation at all. At all. It should be, particularly for women, it should be completely, almost like mandatory. So, and if that should be step number one, is they have to. And the second thing is, if you can't have an orgasm during sex, the next step, it's almost like that psychological desensitization project. Like, can you masturbate in front of me?
Yeah.
Masturbate in front of me.
Yeah.
If you can come in front of me, then
This is one
we're
of my
halfway.
tips I give all the time.
We're halfway there.
Yeah.
Now the second thing is, if you can masturbate while I'm inside you, you know, that's maybe the next level, 2 levels later, and then maybe after that, you know, or you can masturbate with toys or
Give
whatever
me
it is.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do find that obviously, as you know, with women, it's so much more psychological than it is with men.
Yeah.
And you can really like psych yourself out for whatever reason. Because I think a lot of women feel pressured by men to come, and they feel pressured by men to perform well.
And you just like want to. Like, so when you were talking to me, I don't know, I feel like it was like 3 years ago or something like that. And you were like, yeah, it's really frustrating. I was like, Bill, it's so much more frustrating for her.
Of course.
Like, that sucks for her. But then at the same time, maybe she just doesn't, and maybe she doesn't give a fuck.
Yes.
You know? So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it too personally unless the woman is literally like, you are bad in bed. And here's why. But then if you say, okay, well, I'll work on that, then you're not bad in bed anymore.
Of course, because it's about communication.
Yeah.
It's like if you think I'm bad in bed, it's just like we just have to figure out if we could. Because at the end of the day, if the mechanics are working, the mechanics are there, everything can be kind of learned. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember your first orgasm?
When it came to
By yourself. Or if it wasn't with another
you
person.
know what's funny? I think about this a lot because it was I was on vacation with my family and I was reading S.E. Hitton's The Outsiders,
As you do.
as you do. And I was probably, God, I don't know, but
14 is when you
13
read
maybe?
The Outsiders. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. 13, not 10. And I was reading the book, and I didn't. My dad, hardcore, staunch Republican, would never talk about anything sexual. My mom was drunk, so she would never talk about anything sexual. They were very just provincial and conservative. So I was flying, and we didn't have sex ed at that point. So, or porn. So I knew nothing about anything. I had a thing, and I knew there was something going on. And I just remember I remember I started doing like this, like I was kind of like octopus masturbating with my hand, like around it, like this.
Picture you're putting your hand into a pickle jar to get a pickle out.
Like an octopus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how little I was, I guess. And I just started doing that just carelessly while I was reading the book. And then I had this like surge of like something happened. I'm so what the fuck was that? It was literally a what the fuck was that moment.
Yeah.
And I did like maybe 4 or 5 times, and nothing came out. I don't know if women know this, but when you first start masturbating as a young man, like nothing comes out.
Yeah.
So, but I was doing it a bunch, and then at one point I was down back at my home in Virginia in the living room watching scrambled porn. That was an old thing that people did, where you would put on.
This is very common, the scrambled porn.
Yeah.
But the reading of The Outsiders with one hand and the octopus hanging with the other.
So the
There's just something about Ponyboy and Johnny. It's very homoerotic. And then
all
people
dudes
die.
In leather, all dudes in leather and me fucking jerking off.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was jerking off the scrambled porn, and I don't know if I was doing the octopus method. I might have upgraded to the handlebar or whatever. And I shot. And I just remember
it hit some woman in the eye.
Good night, everyone. So I just remember not knowing. I thought I was sick. I didn't know what that was. Like I didn't know what that was. I like literally ran out of the room and like ran up to my room and like pulled the covers up to my neck or something.
Yeah.
But it freaked me out.
Yeah.
And I never talked to anyone about it, but I just sort of figured out that, oh, that's the thing that
was the
makes
thing.
the baby,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine a 13-year-old in 2025 that would think that. It's impossible. They've already watched stepmom porn at that point. There's no 13-year-old who like doesn't understand.
No, they're like, that's what the stepmoms eat. But you have a baby now, or a daughter.
Yeah.
Right?
I've got 2 daughters. Yeah.
2 daughters.
2 daughters.
And were those intentional?
Both women said they were infertile and couldn't get pregnant.
Whoa!
And
This
one
is
of
a
them
story
said-
for another day.
Said they were on the pill. And, it's still, I'm not saying, I was fucking, but yeah, I still decided to believe them and do it. And
Yeah.
and my daughters are, I love them both. So it's hard to feel regret about it,
Yeah.
And my 3-year-old right now, she's the love of my life. Of course I'm going to be a girl dad.
Yeah.
Of course. And it's probably what sort of,
It's penance for your kundalini years.
yeah, for like a good decade and a half when I was just a fucking pig. But I think being a girl dad does change you the way you view sexuality, because I'm so much more aware of just how disgusting men are.
Yeah.
Like just awful.
Yeah.
The shit that I heard. My ex.
It's like Plato's allegory of the cave. Do you know the story?
Vaguely. That was like a weird Cliff Notes thing. I remember.
It was like I didn't understand it until
So
TikTok.
you don't know what you don't know type of thing.
It's like there's people living in a cave and they see shadows of deer and trees and whatever. So they think that is what a deer is. That's what a tree is. And then one day, a person gets out of the cave and they're at first blinded by the sun because they've never seen the sun before. And they're like, what the fuck is going on? And then they see actual deer and they see actual trees and they're like, holy shit. And it's like an enlightenment thing.
Yes.
Then they go back into the cave and they try to explain that. And everybody in the cave thinks they are batshit because they haven't seen it for themselves. So yes, I guess becoming a girl dad is a little bit of, you could explain it to your fellow men and we would hope you. But
well, I think that, another way, not just with my daughters, but I was with a woman in New York for years. We broke up before COVID, and then after kind of in 2023, she kind of came back and said, "You're the love of my life. I want to be with you. I made a mistake," and I should have known. Okay, this is a little fishy. I should have suspected that this was a little of a reaction to something. But I was like, I'd always loved her, and so we got back together, and I thought, this is it. This is going to be the woman I marry. And as we're going through, we have the honeymoon phase, which is amazing. We're back together. We always had good chemistry. And then at some point, she starts telling me about the 4 years we were apart. And she was basically like several times by people she dated,
That's
and
terrible.
in ways that, it's New York. She wants to date these like power brokers, these CEOs, these Wall Street fucking maniacs.
Yeah.
And they're fucking assholes.
Yeah.
95% of them. So they would rape her in ways that were both violent and also just sort of like this weird. She was dating a guy who would he'd wake up in the middle of the night and just start fucking her.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're a couple, like that happens, right?
Yeah, but it's still not
100%.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would have a bad night together and they would fight, but they'd sleep in the same bed and he would still do it. As a matter of fact, he would do it more
If they
when they
fought.
weren't getting along.
Yeah. Fucking sick.
And so it took her a while to kind of go, my boyfriend is raping me.
Yeah.
And she didn't have the presence of mind to stop him, but it was every night, you know. So while I'm with her, I'm realizing she is processing like massive amounts of grief and trauma that I didn't know. I just thought, I dated these guys, these were jerks. But then I hear about this one guy who viciously asked her, another guy who was doing this, and she's a little girl, very sweet, very strong woman, but also just kind of a bit of a people pleaser too. So she's kind of never allowed
she doesn't know
herself
how to stand up to her.
Yeah,
people.
nor does she have any sense of self-defense or anything like that. So, and I realized, wow, I'm really here. And it wasn't a bad thing. I had a feeling this was going to happen. I said, I'm going to help her get through this.
And then she'll move on.
And then she'll move on.
Yeah.
Which is what happened.
Yeah.
You know, she kind of got back to a sense of herself, and then she kind of was like, I feel good, and bye. Which I told her, I think that's what you're going to do. She's like, no. You're the love of my life. And then that's what happened. But it just, it's amazing to me how many stories like that I hear of, and I'm not going to pretend like I'm Justin Baldoni, like male feminist, like super champion of woman and all that stuff. But I definitely feel that, that men get away with way too fucking much.
Yeah.
And the Me Too movement did very little to change that, you know. Maybe more than I know, but it's amazing how often I still see these things and hear these things and hear the way that men are being rewarded by being just absolute fucking pigs.
Totally.
It's like Louis C.K.
When you were saying it was in like a finance guy situation, I'm like, that's literally baked into their culture.
Yes.
Like it's rewarded. It's not just rewarded, it's taught.
Yeah.
But I think even if people aren't held accountable as much as they should be, from what I've seen from the Me Too movement is people who have been assaulted are less embarrassed about having had that happen to them. Like, I feel like it used to be a thing that you were like, you don't talk about it because how could I have let this happen to me? And so now there's more of like this happens and it's not your fault, and like it happens to other people, so people are more willing to at least talk about it with people close to them, talk about it with therapists so that they can get through that trauma.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And she is lucky to have had you, and I'm sorry that you guys didn't end up together, but like you did a good thing.
Yeah.
By like helping her through.
Yeah, and I hope that I mean it's such a weird thing to think about, that I because we're around these men all the time.
Yeah.
Like, there are men out there who are just straight up rapists.
We're about to go to a comedy club where there are a ton of rapists.
I know, it's wild to think about. I think about that too with pedophiles too. I'm always like, I probably just see pedophiles every day.
The first
I have
time
no clue.
you and I ever hung out here, we went to a comedy club. You introduced me to a pedophile. We didn't know he was a pedophile at the time.
Ah.
But he is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, I got a lot of trouble for saying I believe all women regarding that pedophile.
Fuck that pedophile.
You know how male comics out in LA tried to blackball me from the comedy scene because I said, I believe these women.
Yeah, no,
I've seen this guy
that's
operate.
why the system works. It's a broken system. No, they say it's a broken system, but it's actually like working really well for the people that designed it.
Yeah, but this is one thing I'll say about that too, is that I was a male who saw this guy operate, saw weird things. I never saw an actual assault or anything clearly, nor would I claim I did.
Yeah.
But when these women told these stories, it tracked with everything I knew and saw about the guy and heard about the guy 100%.
I just remember you going, this is Remy, she's a comic or whatever. And he looked at me like, how dare you be 30? I could smell it.
And just me saying like, I wasn't surprised he was Me Too. He was very, it seemed like he was kind of irresponsible or something like that. And it wasn't like I was going after him.
No. You
I
were
just
like,
made a couple comments.
yeah.
And she'd called everyone in the comedy community in LA, and I was the only person who would say anything. And she definitely leaned to me like, you have a daughter. Can you imagine if this is your daughter? And I just said, okay,
Yeah.
I think these women, they're suicidal because of this. They're calling me every night crying. They need a man to champion them. And it definitely like touched a part of me. I was like, okay, I think I have to say something if no one else is.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything that damning. I just said like 2 sentences are basically like, yeah, I think these women have no reason to lie.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Literally, who gets famous by
that
being
that
assaulted?
bullshit of like, oh, these
We were
women
talking
are
about
the 15
credits
minutes
before.
of fame.
Like,
No
Sex and the City,
way.
great credit. Netflix, fantastic credit. Being assaulted, not going to get you on
100%.
stage.
And the fact that men still believe that, and some women still believe that, oh, she's only doing this because she wants attention. It's fucking bullshit.
It's the worst attention
you ruin
ever.
You ruin your fucking life.
Yeah. I was talking about this with my friend who I'm staying with. I said the worst thing about people having to come out is that your parents picture you like fucking. Like, it's the same thing. If you have to say I was assaulted, people picture,
Yeah.
nobody wants that
Nobody
for
wants
themselves.
that. Nobody wants that.
Anyway, how do we finish on a lighter note?
Speaking of finishing,
Speaking of finishing.
on a lighter note, well, I think you're, I always loved your podcast. I was
Thank
always
you.
a fan of it. I think you're a great host, and I thought that you were doing you're doing God's work. I think that it's something that for some bizarre reason, sex has such a bizarre place in our society where it's either too taboo or too precious or whatever it is. Even as a male talking about sexuality,
Yeah.
I feel like people are fucking douchebag,
wants to hear
you
that?
arrogant fucking.
Yeah.
You talk about your dick size next.
And a blonde guy as well. Ew.
So and I get it. It's weird when women talk about sexuality. It resonates in a different way. People are more willing to. But I think it's really important because I think that part of the reason why there is so much violence and sexual violence is because men, they haven't figured out what their sexuality truly means to them and what it means to the women that they're with.
Yeah.
They see it as a way of getting off or getting power, and I think it's. I don't know if it's because of porn. I mean, I don't watch porn. Once a blue moon, if I'm in a serious pinch, I'm like, daddy gotta
It's
come.
because of the education. It's like there's not enough education about how to be good at sex and how to not like assault people. Or actually, there's more education on how to assault people. You know what? I'm going to wrap this up by talking about White Lotus.
Okay.
Because I think one of the most interesting storylines, obviously, is like the incest plot, right?
Yes.
And I think it's brilliant because so
Brilliant.
many people were like, oh my God, incest. I'm like, how many fucking porns do you watch where sisters are hooking up? Like,
100%.
not to say that it's not disgusting no matter what, it is. And like how many Game of Thrones things where fucking twins are fucking each other and have
Yeah.
children, like, but it's disgusting when it's just two boys. It's disgusting all the time.
Yeah.
That being said, one of the most interesting things I saw on one of my Reddit threads was Saxon has been conditioning Lachlan to take sex from people and tell people what they want. In order to get what you want, you just do it. You take it, you whatever. And then Lachlan turned around and used it on his brother.
Wild. Yeah.
Wild. Then at the end, we find out that he goes, I'm just a people pleaser. You felt left out. I was like, what a crazy thing to say to your brother.
Exactly.
But yeah, I thought that was really interesting that it was like, yeah, he has the whole time being like, you have to just like fuck bitches, get money, whatever.
Yeah.
Like people don't know what they want. You tell them what they want. And he's like, you want a hand job. You want a hand job right now.
Also, he was Lucky.
Lucky.
He was definitely the most evolved person in Thailand. He was a really evolved kid. I don't know if you got that, but I watched. I was like, this kid is sort of like he is the Buddhist of the group. He was kind of like not very judgmental of anything.
He wasn't judgmental
Even
at all.
his hand job with his brother was done in this loving kind of Buddhist way.
Yeah. Yeah. Buddhists, please write in. Let us know if this is actual Buddhism.
Is Buddhism giving hand jobs to your brow?
Yeah. Bill, this has been so much fun. Where can people find you online?
Just at Bill Dawes, Dawes on the socials.
And check out his IMDb because you will see him popping up in a bunch of shit.
Yeah, and watch Sex and the City. I'll get another nickel.
Yay. Follow me at Remy Casimir. Follow the podcast at How Come Podcast. You can listen to this whole episode. We cut a lot out with no ads at patreon.com/howcome.
I have to ask this before I finish a sexual experience, which this has been. Bill Dawes, did you finish?
Did I finish?
Yeah, are you done?
Do you mean, do I have anything else to say?
Yeah.
But
like
yeah.
Yeah?
I think I'm done. I think
great.
I feel good. I feel satisfied.
Great.
I feel like I've mentally orgasmed.
Thank you so much
during
for
this.
coming.
And I got to say things I literally have never told anyone else.
I love that.
Literally no one else. So it's very cool.
Companions, we're so lucky. Thank you for coming. And you guys, we'll see you next time on How Come. Bye.
Bye-bye.
It's not you, it's me. I try so hard to finish honestly. They say you'll know when you go all the way from A right down to O. Oh no, I think that I still got a ways to go. Oh, I'm sick of this and I have got to know. How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
We cut a lot out for language and some content. So maybe give that a listen if you're curious as to what I mean. And okay, so at the risk of sounding like too much of a misandrist, and because I was talking about thinking of things you should have said in real time as responses to people, I wish I had said to Bill that it was interesting that it took him having a daughter and having a girlfriend who was like viciously abused to realize how shitty men are. Even given the allegory of the cave shit, like I've just never heard of a woman who like gives birth to a boy and is suddenly like, oh my God, women are awful. Do you know what I mean? Like, if anything, it's like later in life. Like I've heard people who got really, really upset around Me Too. A certain mom comes to mind that she was like, well, these women could just accuse my son. You know, like, and I was like, well, what's your son doing that's like sus? That was a big argument. But yeah, I think it's always interesting that like when a man has a daughter, immediately they start worrying about other men because like they've heard for a long time that like men will go after a really young baby. And I don't know. I always find it just so interesting that like a dad will be like, well, boys only want one thing. And it's like, okay, so are you saying that about yourself? Like it's maybe it needs to be like taken out of the narrative of boys just want one thing or boys will be boys. Like maybe we have to start benefit of the doubting. Let me get my thoughts straight. Maybe people who hold people who do bad things accountable are good, no matter what gender they are. And people who perpetuate bad things are bad, no matter what gender they are. Because I think it's like maybe even a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're like, oh, well, men are just terrible. Like, I know that we've said it a lot in this episode, but it was mostly Bill. Like, it makes it almost more of like a default setting where it's like, well, you know, men, they're terrible, you know, and then the guys who grow up who aren't terrible feel like, well, does this make me like less of a man if I'm not terrible? Does this make sense to anyone? I hope so. Anyway, I made fun of Bill for being a blonde man. And next episode, you will find out my new crush, who happens to be a blonde man. And it's inspired by our episode with Jordan Searles. So that is the clue for you to figure it out before you start playing the next episode. All right. Love you guys. Bye.